Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Masloom. We are here today with a very special guest, the internet marketing nerd. This guy has made hundreds of millions of dollars online. He's an internet marketing legend, a great man. I'm very blessed to call a friend and a mentor. Paul Getter, how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing awesome, Shaheen. Thank you very much for having me here on your podcast. Seems like we just connected a couple days ago, man. It seems like we been here before.
Right, definitely, man. Yeah, it's crazy how things work out. The thing is with technology. I was actually talking to a guy about this the other day, like with AI, right? So technology is amazing. And then, when it goes wrong, it's like, it happens.
You always need real hands. Always need real hands.
You gotta have real hands. You can't just fully rely on the technology to do everything for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So, Paul, for those out there that don't know you, and I don't think there's a lot of them, but give us a quick rundown of your expertise and your businesses, what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. Again, thank you very much for having me here on your podcast, Shaheen. Again, my name's Paul Getter, also known as the Internet Marketing Nerd. I've been blessed to work with some amazing people like Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, A-list celebrities, and Fortune 500 companies. We help individuals take their brand online, and we like to say, take them from rock star to revenue. So build that online personal brand and then turn it into a revenue stream.
Very cool, man. It's got to have been amazing working with some of those big business owners like that. I mean,
sure,
it would. I know it would intimidate me, right? If this guy's multi-billionaire, they sell marketing programs, but they're also hiring marketing companies like yourself,
sure,
to make them better. What is that like going into a meeting like that?
Yeah, so I think first of all, a lot of these guys, when we started working with them, they weren't as notable and well known as they are today.
Awesome.
So we just kind of looked at it as another client. We worked with some cool people, but yeah, that personality, their traits and everything like that, everybody's a little bit different. But I don't know if there was a lot of intimidation. I remember one time I had dinner with Kevin Hart. Now, of course, I knew who he was.
Right.
He A-list celebrity and everything like that. And I remember when his manager introduced me to him, Kevin came up to me. He's like, "Paul, it's a pleasure meeting you, sir. We're so thankful to have you here, sir." And he was like, "Sir."
Right.
And I remember I asked his manager afterwards, I said, "Man, Kevin was so respectful and cordial and just like very polite." He said, "Paul, we really see individuals like yourself that help us grow our business as individuals that we really want to respect, align ourselves with, and grow relationships with." So I think, it's kind of a two-way street when it comes to those relationships.
So yeah, I mean, partnerships are everything. You've got to work with the people that you like, that you trust, that you enjoy doing business with. So yeah, I completely agree. It's a two-way streak. It doesn't matter if you're Kevin Hart, The Rock, Grant Cardone, whatever.
Absolutely.
Or you're just the guy at the lemonade stand that's trying to make it.
Exactly.
So speaking of lemonade stands, how old were you when you started your first business?
Man, I tell you, I don't know if I was starting a business. I was just trying to make money. Right. You know what I mean? I was like one of these kids growing up that I was brought up in a pretty low income home. I don't like to use the word poor because my parents never treated us like we was poor. Just, but looking back, it was a low income home. And if I wanted to go to the movies or something like that, my mom and dad wasn't giving me money to go to movies. I had to go hustle and do something to make the money to go myself. And I remember I was probably 7 or 8 years old. My cousin and we would go door to door mowing grass. We would do that. And one of my most successful side hustles, I was probably, about 8, 9 years old. My cousin and we lived in this big apartment complex with hundreds of apartments, and we would go door to door and just knock on the door. And here's these 2 young kids knocking on doors and like, "Hello, sir, can we take out your garbage?" And like, "Yeah." And they would take their garbage out. And of course, in these apartment complexes, you have to take your garbage, down the stairs, out to the dumpster and everything like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely stayed in those.
And then after we took their garbage out, we would come back to their house, knock on the door, and like, thank you very much, sir. If you'd like to give me a tip, we'd greatly appreciate it. And, they'd give us 50 cents, $1, something like that. Well, you do that an entire Saturday and you make $30, $40. I'm like, man, I'm ready to buy a Lamborghini at this time, making $30, $40 in one day. I mean, it was balling. So I would say that side hustle, that, hustle, if you want to make money, you got to do it yourself. That was probably something that was just inside of me at a young age.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man. I grew up very similar. We weren't poor. My parents didn't treat us that way, but if I wanted to go to the movies, or I wanted the Nikes instead of the Shacks, or
the Bobos.
Exactly. I had to get it myself. So I did the same thing, cutting grass. I wish I would have came up with that apartment idea, man, because I had a lot of friends that lived in these huge apartment complexes. Like, man, we could have cleaned up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we actually learned something. So I was also in the Boy Scouts. We learned
the same thing, man. That's crazy. We got a lot of similarities.
Yeah, really? Okay, cool. So I was in the Boy Scouts, and I guess that was my parents' way of trying to keep me out of trouble. And we realized that if we put our Boy Scout uniform on when we knocked on people's door, they were more likely to give us more money. So it's branding. It's branding. Yeah. Instead of 50 cents, they might give us $1 or $2.
Yeah.
So we would go door to door in our Boy Scout uniform, knocking on doors, asking to take out garbage. And we were doing pretty good as little kids.
Stood out there when people have a name or a logo that people know and trust.
Yeah.
It goes such a long way. That's crazy. So you were learning these lessons at such a young age. At that age, there's no way you thought you would get to be the internet marketing.
Here's the thing, man. At my age, if someone would have said, hey, when you grow up, you're going to be the internet marketing nerd, there was no internet.
Right.
There was no internet. So it's like, internet what? What is that? It's like, you're going to have an online business. What do you mean online? There was no online.
Yeah.
So I'm like, back in the days of fax machines and beepers and stuff like that. That was high tech back then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember my first beeper, man. I was like, I think within like the next couple of years, they had cell phones. Then I got a cell phone. I'd been working since I was a kid, so I bought myself those things. They were cool. Like, did I need a beeper? No. Did I need a cell phone at 13, 14? No. But
So for me, I remember it started out with cell phones. First of all, it was like the first cell phone was like this big, this large antenna that came out of it. You got what? It was like that. It was like a brick. And then the next one was like the mobile, where you had a bag that you
the bag
phones. Yeah, those. But they used to charge you based on the minute.
Yeah.
So it'd be like $1.50 a minute to use a cell phone.
That phone call better have been worth it.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't cheap.
Yeah. I remember when text messaging first came out, like it was the same thing, and you had to hit the button multiple times. Now it's just so easy to get information out and to send text messages, make phone calls, man. It's honestly, I think not enough business owners are utilizing those very simple old ways of doing business, right?
Man, it's funny. Sometimes I find myself I was talking to a business owner a couple days ago, and as we're discussing things, he's like, okay, let me put this on my calendar. And he's writing. I'm like, what? That's how you still do it.
Man, I still have my planner right here, man.
Yeah. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but man, it's like, for me, I gotta have it on my Google Calendar and reminders and everything.
Yeah, I gotta have the reminders and all that stuff. But there's something about me, like writing it down helps me remember it better. So what I'm trying to get out of is relying so heavily on those reminders and trying to train my brain, because I feel like with technology, like we've kind of gotten away from needing to remember as much.
Man, It's like, how many phone numbers
Yeah.
do
Oh,
you
yeah.
know of people? I mean, it's like
None.
you probably only
I know my mother's phone number and my
yeah.
brother's phone number. That's it.
So it's like back in the day, you had everybody's phone number memorized, all your
Yeah,
friends and stuff
or
like
a bunch written down in a book.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So, earlier we were talking about partnerships.
yeah.
For you and your business, and really any business at all, how important are partnerships? Not necessarily, giving away equity, but just people you do business with and those partnerships. How important is that in terms of scaling a business?
Well, so I think one of the first things that you have to understand when it comes to a business is if you're just chasing that money, it's going to end quickly.
Yeah.
If you're just, trying to make the next dollar and everything like that, it's going to end quickly. I always put it this way: relationships before revenue, people before profits.
Yeah.
So having those relationships, those partnerships, those strategic alliances, that's something that when the economy changes, when things go crazy, something happens, you have an invaluable commodity, and that's a relationship. So that's something, looking back early on in my business, I was kind of like to myself. I was kind of like maybe like this fear mentality. I was concerned like people knew what I was doing, that they would try to imitate what I was doing. Because
Right.
again, when I got started, there wasn't a whole lot of people doing internet marketing. So I did stick to myself. And I missed a lot of opportunities to build relationships. Now, I'm at a place where I just realized the value of relationships, partnerships,
Yeah.
alliances with people are truly priceless.
Yeah, you just brought up a really good point. It's something that I feel like we all struggle with as business owners. Like, you don't want to give it all away because then you're
Yeah,
like, well, people are going to copy it, people are going to imitate it.
yeah.
But guess what? Nobody's you.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, I created this amazing pitch book for my sales reps to really
Uh-huh.
help business owners get the capital that they need in the right way, instead of having
Yeah,
to trying to slam money down their throat that they don't want or need.
right.
I've created this whole process and this whole book, and this company wanted to partner with me, and they're like, you teach me your ways,
Mhm.
and so on and so forth, and they have the ability to grow to thousands of sales reps. And
Right.
I was trying to hold on to that book. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I really
Yeah,
want to do that. And
yeah.
but it ended up, I mean, it had to, it made sense.
Sure.
Sometimes you just got to take a gamble on people, and I think people will surprise you sometimes. We live in a world where
Yeah,
people don't trust anybody.
that's true.
But if you really put your heart out there, I think you come across some really amazing people.
Yeah, it is so true. One of the things that I had to quickly learn is there's somebody else doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes we allow our ego, our pride to make us think, "Oh, we're the best in the world." And
Right.
granted, I tried to be everything I do with excellence. I've got an amazing team, some of the best in the world. But there are other people that do what I do. And so I can't discount that or ignore that or be afraid of that.
Right.
Uh, what I have to understand, like you said, is people don't always work with you strictly based upon the services you provide, but they work with you because they like your values, they like your principles, they like your personality.
Yeah.
There might be a guy over here that can do what you do, but if he's not wearing glasses and a bow tie, they don't want to work with him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind
Exactly.
of so that is something that has just given me a piece in my business, and it's I'm not I'm not in this competition mindset. I'm in collaboration
Right.
mindset where I'm not trying to compete. Some of the people in my industry that individuals would say they're your competition, I send business to.
Right.
You know what I mean? I send business to them like, hey, work with this guy. I think he's better at doing that than I am. And I'll send
Right.
him business. And we're friends. We're not competitors. We're
Yeah.
collaborators.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way in our industry. We work with a ton of different lenders and credit
Yeah.
card processing companies. I mean, we're constantly referring business back and forth. Like, not everything is the right fit for every company.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
same with customers. Like, every customer is not the right fit for
Absolutely.
your business.
Like the people I don't like, I'm like, oh, I got someone you could work with. You know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely, man. So, so with marketing, online marketing is always it's your expertise and what you're really good at. There's so many free platforms out there for businesses that are either trying to scale really big
Mhm.
or they're just getting started or whatever it may be. Do you think spending more time on the free platforms like your Facebook, Instagram, rather than paid ads is better, or do you think there's different times for different things?
Yeah, so this is what you have to do. First of all, if you have a product or service and you're putting it on social media, you have to test and determine, is it viable?
Right.
Is it working? Are people interested in this? Are you making sales? Is there a demand? There's a lot of questions that have to be answered. So if you start to see success organically posting on these platforms, then what ads do, or paid traffic, what it does is basically it accelerates what organic is already doing. I tell people this: look, if you've got a bad product or service, marketing is just simply going to tell more people
Right.
you have a bad product or service. What I mean? It's not going to fix your problems.
Right.
Marketing doesn't fix problems, it
Right.
just amplifies what you're already doing.
I gotcha. I love that. That's great. So yeah,
Man,
if you're
that's a good clip. Like we can take that and cut it out. Marketing is not a problem solver, but it
yeah,
amplifies what you're. Man, that's a good meme.
yeah, absolutely. And it's so true though. Like I think a lot of times, like like I've started a bunch of different companies that haven't worked out. Versa
Yeah,
Business Systems this is something I'll probably do the rest of my life. We're helping a lot of people. We're successful. We're growing like crazy. Everybody loves it. It's been great. But before this, like I had some failures, and I think it was because I was putting the marketing before solving the problem, right?
sure. Yeah,
There was a problem beforehand. There was a reason why we weren't getting sales or
yeah,
making enough money, and we didn't solve that problem first. Then we started marketing, and then it was just a waste of
yeah, yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely, man. So for new businesses, your suggestion is that they test the waters on different platforms first, because paid ads are only going to amplify what happens on those
Exactly.
platforms.
Exactly. Yeah.
I got that. Awesome, man. So as far as your business goes, you do a lot of coaching, a lot of marketing. What would you say are the best platforms for, business to business, like what you're doing?
Yes. So it's really, I think one of the things that I've learned in business is never assume.
Right.
Just let the numbers tell you the results.
Right.
I remember when I first got started doing stuff online, I had viral websites where it was like, the top 10 things you need to know about Kim Kardashian. And you go into these viral websites, click, 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 and end up spending hours on these viral websites. I did that. I did t-shirt sales. And I remember one time I had a t-shirt and it was like to men, it was a very manly shirt. And it was like, I don't remember what it said, but when we started the ads, we obviously we were targeting men for
Right.
this because it was a very masculine shirt and it did fine. And then one time I remember I set up an ad and I forgot to refine it and narrow it down to men only.
Right.
And I started targeting men and women. Well, that ad
Did better.
outperformed all the other ads.
Women are
And I
buying
started
your
thinking
men's
about it.
shirts.
Yeah, it's because the ladies were buying the shirts
Yeah.
for, their husbands, their boyfriends, whatever. And I was like, so I came to a conclusion about that product before I even
Right.
tested it. So I think that sometimes businesses can do the same thing when it comes to social media platforms, that they're like, oh yeah, all my people are on TikTok or on
Right.
LinkedIn or
Right.
whatever. But
Yeah, I've heard people say
I
that all the
think
time.
you just gotta test it. You gotta put your content out there, because I know doctors, I know lawyers that are rock stars on TikTok.
Right.
And people would say, "Oh, TikTok is just for kids." But I've had clients tell me I get more referrals from TikTok, and these are professional businesses
Right.
and things. And so I think I have seen certain platforms do have trends. For example, YouTube. there is people go to YouTube with an intent.
Right.
YouTube is a search engine. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where
Yeah.
people are actually,
They're
it's not just like
looking for
randomly
certain
scrolling.
information.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So YouTube has a higher intent. When people find your video, they're more likely to engage and take action and build a relationship with you
Right.
because you have to think of like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You're just scrolling, and it's more of a passive. Oh, I found it. But on Google, you're typing in terms,
Right.
people find your content like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I like."
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's you know, speaking of TikTok, so when I went to a after I left your mastermind,
Uh-huh.
when we went to the Bahamas,
Yeah.
I went to another marketing workshop where one of Grant's marketing guys was talking about omnipresent, right?
Yeah.
So being everywhere all at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a TikTok account at the time. Now, my Instagram was doing really well. I had 50,000 followers on Instagram, and
Yeah.
it's not as many as you, obviously, but it was pretty decent at the time. And
Sure, that's great.
so I decided to get on TikTok and
Uh-huh.
started posting the same stuff on TikTok and Facebook and all that. And within the last 6 months, I've probably gotten 20, 25 clients off of
Amazing.
TikTok.
Yeah, man,
And,
it's like you
and
never discount any of these
yeah.
platforms.
Yeah, and I never would have get because honestly, I still only have, I think, 4,200 followers on TikTok,
Uh-huh.
but sometimes these videos, like, a bunch of people save them. I guess you can save it to your
Yeah.
folder and revert back to it, and,
Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
we've gotten a ton of business off of TikTok. It's, at Facebook, I mean, Facebook ads, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
we've had hit or miss. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
whenever we try to scale up an ad, we spend a bunch of money on an ad, and it gives us a bunch of BS, like people that
Yeah.
don't have businesses, people that don't, aren't interested in our product, whatever. And then when we keep the ad spend small, it seems to do really well.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
algorithms, like, is there a science to it, or is it really just kind of
Yeah,
luck of the
I
draw?
think you have to understand the psychology of the algorithm and how it scales and what it's actually doing in
Right,
this searching out and finding clients and building proper audiences and your messaging now with iOS updates and things like that. It's
right,
more than just your targeting, but it's about a very clear, bold message that when your target audience sees it in your ad, the word, the copy, that it immediately connects with them.
right.
Because in for those that aren't familiar with the iOS, it's basically these platforms are trying to limit the trackability of a person online. So the ability to really get a highly targeted um, ad moving is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So you have to be more plain with your messaging and really connecting with your audience better.
Right, right. Now, do you recommend that people hire a marketing agency to handle this stuff, or test it themselves first, or what is your recommendation on that? Because I know some people feel differently, like, but to be honest, we did great by ourselves, but we're
Mhm.
doing 20 times better now that we took on a marketing agency to
Yeah.
handle our ads.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are afraid of making that investment
Yeah.
into an agency because again, it's like I don't say yes to every client.
Right.
Um, uh, Likewise, people shouldn't say yes to an agency all the
Right.
time because, for us, we want to make sure that it is already a viable offer, a viable service. I mean,
Right.
because sometimes people will come to us and like, "Oh man, I got this $1 million idea," and we're like, "Oh yeah, how much have you made?" "Oh, I haven't tested." I'm like, "I don't want to work with you, because
Right.
all the risk is on my shoulder. If
Right.
it doesn't work, they'll say, "Oh, they're not good marketers." Has
Right.
nothing to do with it's a horrible product. So,
Right.
I think that there comes a point when you are making money that you have to consider investing in a marketing agency.
Yeah.
I think it is good for people to know the concepts of marketing, know how to do ads, but sometimes people waste a lot of money trying to figure it out themselves.
I sure did.
Yeah, yeah. You can waste a lot of money trying to figure it out yourself, and you're like, oh, like an agency say, oh, we're $5,000 a month. You're like, oh, I can't do that, and then you end up spending $20,000
Yeah.
trying to figure it out yourself, not make any money when
Right.
you could have, had an expert do it
Yeah.
for you.
Like
So,
the first 2 years we were in business, we strictly did direct mail. And while
okay,
we were doing direct mail, I in the background was trying to figure out Facebook ads.
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't realize, but literally in those 2 years, I had already tested but spent $118,000
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
Facebook ads. And I don't even think we got maybe $20,000 back in
Wow,
revenue. I
yeah,
mean, it was just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I just couldn't believe, I mean, like, oh, yeah, I wish I would have hired a
The
marketing agency,
Yeah, well,
years
the
ago.
fastest way to, um, accelerate your growth in any area of your life is, mentors, coaches,
Yeah,
people that are experts at it. Man, I can tell you stories of losing $200,000 in 1 week because I was doing stuff that I didn't know how to do. You know what
right.
I mean? So it's kinda like, of course, back in those days, finding someone to mentor
It
me,
was
it was
hard. Yeah,
yeah, it
it
was
was hard to find.
yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of people. Man, I remember I was talking with Facebook one time. I was on a call with a Facebook rep, and he was looking at our ad account. He's like, "Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute." And I heard him call someone over, and they're looking and they're talking like, "No way, no way." And then he got back on the phone with him. He's like, "I'm sorry, sir. We've never seen anybody spend this much money on Facebook ads."
Right,
And so it's like back in that day, I thought, man, I'm the only person running Facebook ads. I didn't
right,
like Facebook was asking me. I was their beta tester. I was figuring
right.
out stuff for them. So
Wow. That's awesome. So you actually did consulting for Facebook?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Facebook paid me. They would give me credit for the Facebook ad platform and like spend it. Tell me what you think, and so I'd be testing it and everything like
Very
that, and
cool.
yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Very
So
cool, man. Very
yeah.
cool. So, we've been talking about different platforms.
Mhm.
Now I know in the past when we talked, like certain people are on different platforms. So, obviously being omnipresent, testing the waters in different areas. Do you think there's no way you can lose by just posting on everything anyway?
If your time permits it, you
Right.
know what I mean? If your time permits it, which, there's a lot of programs that you can
Yeah.
get
Like you
that will
can
just
literally just
post everything
post
out
every
at the
yeah.
same time. So I
Yeah.
I don't like,
It's
um
funny, I do it manually, but I'm so quick with it, like
yeah,
so, like,
it's
with
like
my videos specifically, I only do 1 per day,
uh-huh,
because I feel like when and I don't know if this is algorithm or what, but I feel like when I post more than 2 in the same day,
uh-huh,
1 does well and 1 doesn't. Like, I
yeah.
feel like when I just post 1, like, usually that 1 does pretty well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
what's that about?
I heard Gary V, one of his videos one time, he said, "Post 14 times a day."
What?
I'm like, "What? Who's got time for that?" They're like, "Post 14 times a
Well,
day
who
and you
wants
won't
to
lose."
see
I'm like,
that? Like, even if your customer wants to see it,
"Yeah,
like, if you call them 14 times in a day, they're
right,
not gonna
right.
wanna work with you.
Yeah, yeah.
If they see
I think it's
14 of your ads in the same day, they're gonna be like, "Man, this guy's
yeah,
nuts."
he's annoying, yeah. I think maybe his psychology on that is like, if you put 14 out there a day for a couple months, you're gonna have something
Yeah,
somehow go
yeah,
viral, you know what I
yeah, I get
mean?
that. I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that.
No, I mean, 14
I think,
I mean,
like, everybody would
I do have
unfollow
to
me.
live. I do have to live.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, even if I got, like, a virtual assistant to do that,
Yeah,
like, I feel like, people would unfollow you that you want to see your stuff because
yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"Man, my news feed is just overloaded
yeah,
with
it's got
Shaheen or
yeah,
overloaded
yeah,
with
yeah.
Paul," you know what I mean?
And
Like
I do think that there is more and more necessity for quality
yeah,
over quantity.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, Grant says the same
very
thing, I
yeah,
agree with the
very
same thing.
valuable content that people like, "Whoa, man, that was great."
Yeah,
Versus like, "Ah, that was okay. That was" because if you're doing 14 a day, you're gonna have, you know, 10 of them that are just junk, and
right,
people that will give people a misrepresentation of
yeah.
who you really are.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do 14 great posts or
Yeah,
great videos a day. I mean, there's
yeah,
just not enough time.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. Now, what's your take on Videos is now probably one of the biggest marketing tools online right
Sure,
now, right? Like,
sure. Yeah.
reels and stories and stuff like that. Now, what is your take on, a self-production, right? Where you're doing like a selfie video or using a stabilizer or something versus like professional production, you get a camera crew to do the video. What do
Yeah.
you think the
So here's my theory on it. A lot of times people don't do content because they're concerned about, well, the quality isn't good enough. They're paralyzed by perfection. It's like, oh man, it's got to be perfect and stuff.
Right.
Then it's like, I think there has to be a certain amount of authenticity
Yeah.
in what you're doing. And life isn't polished perfect. And being able to communicate and connect with people, sometimes it's difficult to do with these highly edited and produced
Right.
videos. But when you can just sit there and talk to people and connect with people, I
Yeah.
think that's more meaningful. So I think that there are places and times to do a very highly polished video that you want to represent you,
Right.
but
Like
to
a
really build.
commercial or
Yeah,
like
I would say something like that, maybe a special event or a special promotion or
right.
something like that that you're doing that you really wanna, wow people with.
Right.
But I can say this, just historically speaking, the ads that perform the best are the ones that are not highly produced.
Right.
It is the ones that are just with the cell phone, somebody talking, not this studio highly produced
Yeah.
video. I say that as a generalization. That's
Right.
not always true
Right.
because there are some style of highly produced videos that do well. But it's interesting. I've got some very highly produced videos that I do that I use for ads, and it gets amazing engagement. Like people love it. People make great comments on it. Like, man, I
Right.
love this video. It's always a compliment to me when people say, this is the best ad that I've ever seen. You know what I mean? It's like,
Wow.
I love
Yeah,
this
that's a hell of
an
a
ad. Yeah,
compliment.
it's like, this is a great ad. I love this ad. I've got one ad as the comments are like that. But with all that being said, the sales, the conversions on
Right.
those ads are not necessarily any better. So I think people can be like, "Oh man, that's a great ad," but
Right. It's
if it
got a
doesn't make
lot of
them
likes,
buy,
got a lot of comments, but what matters the most is
yeah,
conversion,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Would you say that's the number one thing is conversion and not so much people seeing it, but
Yeah, so
or do you
I
think there's value to both?
there's value to both because if people don't see you and
Right.
don't get to know you, there used to be a day when you could set up an ad like, here's my product, blah, 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 blah. Click the button and buy.
Right.
And people would do it. And now it's a slower process. I
Right.
kind of illustrate it like this. Back in the day, you could do one night stands with your customers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just click buy and they'd go. But now you have to date, you have to build a
Yeah, you gotta
relationship
build
with
that
them and everything
relationship.
like that
Yeah.
before they're willing to make that
Yeah, so they've
transaction.
gotta see you a few times. It's funny when we have clients call in, they're like, I filled out that form on your ad 3 months ago, but I've been
Yeah,
seeing you guys everywhere. Man, I love what you guys are about or your
yeah,
values or whatever."
yeah,
And that's when they convert, after they've
yeah,
seen us a bunch of times, even though they reached out to us originally,
yeah.
it's a different day and age. I think being able to adapt as
Mhm.
things change is a huge importance to be able to grow a big business. Like
Absolutely.
with COVID, people either adapted and won, or
Yeah.
they didn't adapt and they got crushed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember when COVID hit, I had a lot of my clients and coaching students reach out to me like, "Oh, do we need to change things? Do we need to stop selling?"
Right,
And I said to them like, "Is your selling really helping people? Is it adding value? Is it solving problems?
right.
If it is doing that,
Keep doing it.
keep doing it. Keep
Yeah,
helping people. This is an opportunity for you to help more people. But if it's not helping people, if you're not solving problems, then stop. You should have
right.
stopped a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, in
But
general, if your if
yeah,
your if your product or service doesn't solve a problem, you shouldn't be
yeah,
doing it anyway.
yeah. It's just a money-based
Right.
product or service.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
nobody can really
yeah,
respect or get behind like that.
yeah.
You know. Yeah, I mean, with us, when COVID hit, lending stopped, businesses were closed, so lending stopped, and credit card processing, they weren't setting up new accounts.
Yeah.
So in January of 2020, I completely by accident ended up learning the ins and outs of medical supplies and built this huge medical supply company.
Interesting.
And we made a ton of money, but we were also able to donate a ton of medical supplies and save a ton of lives. Like, that
Yeah.
was the coolest thing for me
Yeah.
during that time, is like, I could have sat on my hands and feet and be like, oh no, what are we gonna
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Like, businesses aren't open, we don't have any customers. I was able to keep all my employees employed and making
Yeah.
money, and we made some crazy huge connections during 20. I mean, I was on the phone with the White House, with Pence's
Wow.
aide,
Amazing.
the
Amazing.
guy who owns the Bulletproofing company that does all the helmets for the U.S. military,
Uh-huh.
the mayor of New York. I mean, you name it. It was just like it was crazy for those first like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it was.
Um, every Burger King in the country had a mask that came through us.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
that was
Very cool.
probably the coolest deal that we
Very
did.
cool.
Didn't help a ton of people, but hey, people love the Burger King, right? Um, so, for those business owners who are new, or maybe those who are planning on starting a business, what would be the best piece of advice you could give those people?
Yeah. So, it's kind of like sometimes people ask me, like, if you could go back in time, 20 years, 30 years, what would you
Right.
do? And I would say it would come down to a few things. One of them I already mentioned before is building relationships with people.
Yeah.
Because having those relationships with people, and it's not just building a business, but you're building a community, you're building a network, you're building relationships and
Right.
partnerships. That is something that is invaluable, and it goes beyond just building a business that could be here today and gone tomorrow. When you
Right.
have that network and those relationships and those partnerships, that's going to give you longevity. Then secondly, I'd get mentors. I'd get
Right.
mentors. Like, if I'm going
Oh,
to
yeah.
start a business, I'm going to find someone that is already doing it. I was talking to my personal trainer the other day, and he's like, "Man, I'd like to start a coffee shop. What do you think I should do?" And I told him, I said, "I have zero experience
Right.
starting a
Find
coffee
somebody that
shop."
started a
I
coffee
said,
shop.
"What you need to do is you need to find somebody that," I said, "I'll help you find someone that has started a coffee shop. Let's talk to them. And, when it
Right.
comes to marketing, I can help you on that." I
Right.
said, "But all of these intricacies and things that you're going to deal with when it comes to coffee shop, I don't know, but let's find someone that is doing a coffee shop." So, building relationships, getting mentors, and then serving, just
Yeah.
serving. Like, if you have this idea, man, I'm just going to serve people. I'm going to
Yeah.
help. I'm going to solve problems, instead of just like, I'm going to make some money. And I,
Right.
I understand this, because I know when I first got started as a business, I'm like, I'm going to make money. I got to make
Right.
money.
Right.
And I realized I learned how to make money, and I needed something bigger than that. And
Yeah.
so when you understand what you do can make an impact, can make a difference, can
100%.
help people, then it changes the desire and how you do things
Right.
altogether.
Well, money's just a byproduct of good service,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
one thing I learned early on, especially with this business. I decided that I was going to run this business the way that my parents brought me up to be,
Mhm.
which was help people. I
Yeah.
remember I was 7 years old. We were on our first road trip in the U.S. So we were
Mhm.
going through, I think, the Badlands in South Dakota,
Yeah.
and my dad was like, hey, if we could start a business where we can help people and make money at the same time, we should do it. And we
Yeah.
started thinking of ideas. Well, at 7 years old, you think of helping people, of feeding the homeless and
Yeah, yeah,
clothing the sick, or
yeah,
whatever it is,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you're like, well, there's no, if you're giving stuff away, there's no money in that.
yeah.
But obviously, as I get older, there's a lot of ways that you can really
Absolutely.
help
Yeah.
people and add value to people's lives, and still make money while doing it. So, I have a very, we have a saying in the company that focus on helping the client, and
Uh-huh.
you will get taken care of. Even if the
Yeah.
company loses money on the deal, the sales reps know I will take care of them no matter what.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
focus on helping the customer and doing something that's going to help their business first.
yeah,
Everything
yeah,
else will come.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just a natural progression of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So last but not least, Paul, it's been great talking to you.
Likewise, bro. Likewise.
Explain to us what this offer is that you have for us.
Yeah. So I have I don't have one on my desk. I got a book. I got a couple books, but I just did a book, and it is a faith-based book about biblical principles of success based on the book of Proverbs, 31 chapters in Proverbs about success, about business, and everything like that. Anyways, give everybody a free copy that's listening to
Very
this
cool.
podcast. All you have to do is just go to nerdpaul.com, fill out the information there, and we'll make sure you get a free copy.
Awesome. Yeah, the link is right below you as well. So
Awesome. Thanks.
awesome, man. Man, I've gotten a lot out of today. Every time we
Loved it, man.
talk, man,
Loved it, man.
I love it, man. I love
Likewise,
it.
likewise.
I've still got your book from the first mastermind I did with you guys
Man,
on my desk.
we gotta do it again, bro. We gotta do it again.
100%. That was so much fun. Gary actually just he reached out last week. He was trying to plan a trip, I think to Jamaica. So yeah, we'll definitely have to do something soon, man. For
Very
sure.
cool. Sounds great, bro. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you again later on.
Sounds great, bro. Have a great day, man.
Thanks,
Thanks a lot.
brother. You too.